what is Rolex doing? Has Rolex lost their mind? Is this something very new? Blah, blah, blah. Or is it something very old? Da, da, da. I had a dream to own a Rolex for every day of the week. And finally, the year was 2020 and Rolex delivered. Welcome to today's video. I am Karar, and today we're going to take a closer look of reference 124300, the so-called Oyster Perpetual in 41 millimeters. But before we go ahead, make sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that bell. Let's get into it. When Rolex introduced these new watches, we need to remember the year. 2020 was burdened by COVID. Usually, Rolex releases their news somewhere in March, April, and they introduce everything they're going to drop for the next year. But 2020 came with another plan. Rolex had to push that launch back, and in September, they shocked the world with the new colorful Oyster Perpetuals that literally nobody expected. Today, we have 5 of the most sought after, well, actually, we do not have the most sought after. That is fucking killing me, but we're gonna get there. So what we have today is obviously the Tiffany model. We have the yellow, red, dark blue, and the green one. And we're gonna discuss that and see them a little bit more up close in this video. So if we talk briefly about this current model and the differences with the older model, there's 2 things that really strikes you when you look at the design. So the actual minute hand here is way longer and it goes almost all the way out as the second hand does. And then you have the design choice here from Rolex to double down on the indexes at 3, 6, and 9 o'clock. You can see this model is quite thick to only be a time-only watch with 100 meters of water resistance. So this one measures in at 11.7, and that leads me to believe Rolex didn't create this to be a dresser. It's more of an everyday watch. So if we talk about what's under the hood on a watch like this, we're going to find the caliber 3230. And that is an interesting choice. And let me tell you why. Because the caliber 3230 is also used in the Rolex Submariner No Date that was introduced in 2020. And it's also used for the newer Deep Sea Challenger watch that they introduced in titanium and is priced at approximately $30,000 US. So it's an incredibly robust movement that Rolex is utilizing for their entry-level watch, and I really like that. Let me bring you back to December 2021 when Patek Philippe decided to collaborate with Tiffany & Co. to introduce the limited edition 5711 Tiffany. The first piece went on a charity auction, and that auction broke all the records for a normal steel watch. The watch sold for 6.5 million US dollars.
Sold! New York has it, paddle 9252.
And that literally made the Rolex Tiffany dial just skyrocket in value, and it went from 15,000 US dollars in the secondary market to jump to 30,000 US dollars in just a day. And then just a couple of months later, Rolex decided to officially discontinue the Tiffany dial in 41 millimeter. That made the market price even more crazy. And then they also decided to discontinue the yellow and the coral red in this box.
And it's gone.
And to add to that fuel, every day on social media, you see all of these celebrities such as LeBron James, Mark Wahlberg, Roger Federer, you name them, they're wearing the Oyster Perpetuals. So why would all these celebrities be wearing entry-level Rolexes when they can actually afford to wear whatever they like? It's because of the hype.
Do you really believe your own hype that much? I am the hype!
And now, let's talk about the actual value of these watches. Obviously, I'm not gonna include the celebration dial, but we can throw it out there. The 41mm is currently trading around the 30,000 US dollar mark, and that is because obviously it is a novelty. It was introduced in 2023, But if we focus on these watches, the number one watch is actually the Tiffany color. Because the secondary market price of the Tiffany is at somewhere around 26,000 US dollars for a time-only 100-meter water-resistant watch. And then at number 2, we actually have something interesting, because both red and yellow, at times the red has been the second most desirable watch. But most recently, it looks like the yellow is taking over the second position, because today you have the yellow at around 19,000 US dollars and you have the red at around 18,000 US dollars. And then here are two of my actual favorites here. So if we look at market value between these two, the green one trades around 11,000 US dollars, whereas the blue one trades now around the 9,000 US dollar mark. Now, let me tell you why I say that these are my actual favorites within these 5. It's not because of the value, it's actually because of what they represent. The purpose of these watches is to be an entry-level Rolex watch. And a lot of my friends, they ask me, I have 10 grand to spend, I would like to buy a Rolex watch. What would you recommend to me? So you can always give the boring choice of a Rolex Submariner, but the unfortunate thing with the Rolex Submariner is that pretty much everybody is wearing one of those. Second on my list, I would say, is a Rolex Datejust. The Rolex Datejust, if you find the right dial, if you find the right configuration, that's also a nice purchase at around the 10,000 mark. But if you want some color, I would say the blue and the green here offer pretty good and fair value for your money when it comes to Rolex, and your money is going to be fairly safe in these watches as well. Because the green dial is a very desirable color when it comes to Rolex, and obviously the Sunburst Blue is always a fan favorite. I actually started with the blue one because I really liked this color pop on a Rolex dial. I don't have a lot of blue dials in my collection, so I wanted to have the option to have a blue dial, something that you can wear any day you want. Second up, I went with the mustard yellow dial. This isn't a super clear yellow, and depending on how light hits it, it gives you that mustard-ish, yellowish look. That is quite cool. And if we look at the red one here, I mean, the red one, it's a very specific color. I'm not the biggest fan of red, but this one have actually grown on me over time. When you wear it with just like normal clothes, this one just takes over. It just literally screams. And I think I've had the most amount of comments for this dial, which you might think would be for the Tiffany dial. But the red one is just so in your face, so people recognize it much, much more than the Tiffany one.
What are those?
And now to my favorite one out of these. You might have already guessed it, but it is obviously the Tiffany one. Alright guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to check us out at eifelwatches.com, and if you haven't seen the last video, it's up there. And don't forget, like, subscribe, hit that bell. See you guys next time around.